Lemon Amiga presents a Playguide video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi there, welcome to another Lemon Amiga play guide and review. This time we'll be checking out Wolfchild by Core Design, released on the Amiga in 1992. And it begins with a very nice atmospheric animated introduction sequence.
Not all walking. Also, Olympic athlete Saul Morrow has refused to comment on the kidnapping of his scientist father Cal and the subsequent murder.
During the intro, we can see Conan the Barbarian is bored since home one day, so what happens is a national crisis, and so he has to go into his special suit, and that turns him into a werewolf. And the original drawings for this intro showed this guy on an island and a lot more special things going on, but apparently by the time it got to this stage in the game's development, the intro just turned into these few cutscenes where the guy simply straps on this werewolf suit to his back, and the first part of it looked to me more like a jetpack, but eventually he puts this thing on and he turns into a werewolf. And that leads us into the game itself, and as you can see, Wolfchild begins with a scrolly message, Wolfchild, ripped across the screen, not sadly dripping blood, but this was the Amiga and this was the time of paranoia when it came to blood in video games. And it also is accompanied by some quite nice title music as well. Wolfchild was developed in 1991 and released perhaps 1992, and this was again a Simon Phipps production. So without further ado, we can also press fire, and that brings up the only options in the entire game, and so let's press fire. From here we can switch off the music and we can leave that on. We can also see the current high score table is simply the high score and the last score. So let's press fire and let's check this game out. In Wolfchild, we play as a guy who is not a child, is a fully grown man with very long wavy hair, and what we must do is use our punch power to knock out the enemies. Yes, the only way that the wolf power will be activated is if we have full health, and also if we have, well, enough health to activate that, and that will activate as soon as we open this crate right here. So let's punch the guy out of the way. Now that we have full health, we gain another power up. This is the Wolf Punch, and using the Wolf Punch we can lob that towards the enemies simply by pressing the fire button. The enemies will respawn on this particular spot, and if you're not careful and you fall down, then they will start to respawn, so what you're going to have to do is backtrack. Luckily this first level is very small and it won't take us that long to get back to where we were before, and it's not hard to jump all these guys either, and you can see it's not hard to time our way through that, and if you can't, it gives us the energy back by giving us the energy pill, and that is marked by a bolt of lightning on a bottle, and so those are the lightning power-ups that we'll be referring to. If there's a small one, that just gives us the 1, if there's 2 then it gives us 2, and if there's a big lightning on the bottle it will give us full power. So we're coming up to our first boss, and the first boss, well, it can be tricky if you don't know all of the things that you can do with it, and that thing will not be able to shoot through crates. So if we don't destroy that crate and we don't jump on top of that crate either, otherwise that will blow up, then we can be safe behind that thing and we can simply duck under the enemy's firepower. What I like to do is to time our jumps, and you can jump up 3 times there and hit the thing, stand without crouching and hit the thing again, and then you'll have to jump up and repeat the same thing again, and remember not to crouch and fire, otherwise that will destroy the crate and that will destroy your safe hiding spot. Unfortunately that thing is repetitive and it takes quite a few shots to knock it out. The thing on this level is if we collect the energy power up with full wolf at the end, we can have a massive mega blast and pile straight into that enemy. That takes us on to level 2, and in the level 2 we find a forest, and with the forest we can jump here and skip out half of the level, and I definitely recommend jumping here and landing on these platforms, and that basically skips out half of the level. And you might notice I've just picked up another power up, and that gives us another block on our energy meter. Unfortunately that means I'm going to have to backtrack now, and if I memorise all of the energy collectibles on this level, it should mean that I can march straight through it. And you might notice I still have the power up from the first end of level boss, and this is another energy collectible, although it's guarded, and hopefully if we get rid of a lot of these enemies they won't respawn, and it means I can go in and collect that thing. And just like a Zelda game, unfortunately we can only have 1 hit before we lose our wolf power, and we can only use the power-ups once we have the wolf power activated. So yes, we can collect lots of extra weapons in this game, but none of them will have any effect unless you run through this thing almost perfectly. And we can survive 1 hit and we will have that ranged weapon, but if we take more than 1 hit, unfortunately we'll lose it, and that means that unfortunately we'll have to punch our way all the way through to the end of the game, which, just like Zelda 1, unfortunately that means that the game becomes 4 times harder because you'll have to rush in and risk getting hit in the first place. Luckily, unlike Zelda, you'll find lots more power-ups dotted around, and it means that we can get full health back if we do make those mistakes at this point, although this level is quite large, and this plant just above here is quite dangerous because it will spit things towards us, and so I'm being careful, and being careful in this game means that we are rewarded by, guess what? Not only an enemy which doesn't fire, which is the same enemy from Switchblade that you might remember, because this is a Simon Phipps game. Yes, it's an EXT, it's another extend to our health bar, and that means that hopefully we can take another hit now and still retain our full wolf. And so let's avoid the homing missiles, and again if we pull back here, then whoops, missed it, but just above here is another health pickup, so even if we do make a mistake, we get that health back. And this is a tricky spot because you have to jump over 2 things and that thing as well, destroy it, and now jump over that thing on the ground because that will kill us. And now we're back. Look where we are, we're right back to that platform that we jumped on right at the start of the level. And now instead of going the wrong way, let's go the right way and get hit, unfortunately, and that means that we have to backtrack. all the way back to the start of the level. That is one of the downsides to this game, and luckily there are extra health pickups, but once we've collected them, once it's gone, it's gone. But hopefully once the enemies have gone as well, that should cut down the number of enemies on the level, so hopefully we can just rush through it. But sometimes it can be very wise to leave power-ups and energy behind if you don't need those, because if you don't need them, you don't need them, you might as well leave them behind unless you do need them later on. You can see we've taken 2 hits, we're still on full wolf power, and if you stand right on the edge here and jump directly up, you'll land on the very pixel, and that will save us getting killed. But let's kill that plant again, because that thing is deadly, and unfortunately we cannot collect another extend, we've already collected it, and there are hidden power-ups dotted around as well. If we should destroy them using our wolf power, they're hidden. So let's try again to get that collectible power-up, and let's see if we do it, and yes, that gives us 2, that means we've got full health back. That means we can now avoid this thing, and 3rd time lucky, let's try again to get to the top of this level. That is a very difficult jump, and if you don't do that jump perfectly, then you will have a very difficult time with it. And we can explode these things just by jumping on them when we have full wolf power, and this can be helpful, and it can also be distracting as well. So there are some tricky parts that I'm making look easy on this playthrough. That's the shield. Once we have the shield, we will be invulnerable to everything for a number of seconds, and that means we can simply ride across the level. And if we did run into trouble at any point during the level, it gives us full health back at this point. Getting full health back when we only needed the 1 is a bit of a waste, but we'll take it anyway, and mushrooms popping up from the floor will kill us, so we'll have to watch out for those, and the guys gunning us down as well. Luckily everything is predictable, and as long as we've memorised the whole thing absolutely, we can march straight through to the end of the level. And sometimes the health is hidden. You can see it took a beating, and sometimes it's easy to take a beating because those guys have the long range weapons just like we do, and by the time you get onto the stage of level 2 they will start to wield them and lob them in our direction. Luckily I did leave some health knocking around, but unfortunately sometimes if you run past the spot where the health is it won't respawn, and in this particular case unfortunately, even though I know where the hidden health is, I can't get it to respawn. So we're going to have to manage on that damage and see if we can get any further with this level. That's another collectible. You can see in the bottom corner, at the bottom right, there are some smart bombs that we can collect, and I think if you pull back and hold down fire you can activate those smart bombs. Meantime, we've been destroyed and we've collected the letter A, which adds to the bonus extra letters at the bottom of the screen, and you can collect extra for an extra life or a bonus for some bonus score. We're down to 3 health, having now picked one up, and now again all we need to do is to memorise where the full health is on the level, and even with this Amiga punch power we can, it seems, brave our way hopefully towards that spot. This guy won't go across that collapsible platform, and we can't get to him either. Not that we really need to get to him, but if we get hit at this point, obviously we'll get killed. Luckily in this one there is actually free full health, but if this guy blocks the way, then I'm going to struggle. So what I'm going to have to do is jump over this guy and hit him from behind, and then I can try to get that full health. Sometimes timing has to be observed, but that's not really the general rule on this game, because timing, who needs it? All you need to do is to run from health to health. And you can see I've just picked up 2 more, and there's a guy there, and if we double back on this section, there's some more collectibles, another E there, and you never know with this game. And you can see that down arrow is a checkpoint. We've made it to the checkpoint at the end of the level, and ordinarily you're supposed to rush in and jump up and hit that enemy, but of course, knowing me, I've managed to find a safe spot. All we need to do is to stay here and hit it a large number of times. That means that we can complete that level, and rushing straight on to level 3, we'll have to run left straight away, otherwise a boulder will come along and kill us. So if we don't know about that and hang around, we'll get killed. And if we rush through this level, we'll get killed. You can see with the alien is approaching us, if we hang around too long, he will block our fall. That means we'll fall onto him, and if we are in full wolf, we might hit him, but if we aren't, we'll get killed. So if we go down there, we'll find some extra health. I don't need it, but you can see some home missile lobbing things, so sometimes it's a good job if you don't need the extra collectibles, because that means that you don't have to go out of your way to collect them. And you can see that thing has blown up, and because we are in full wolf, we can now collect the power-up, which we would not be able to collect if we didn't have that. And it's highly annoying in this game, because if you get hit too many times and go down to punch power, it means that the level is very much harder, and the game involved becomes very much different, because no longer can you just lob things towards the enemies, blow them up. No, this time you have to wait and time and hit things precisely, and if that enemy needs more than one hit, then unfortunately you might get damage. Luckily the bees and some things which knock us back don't damage us. You can see no damage there, and there is a cut through section just underneath where we are, just been damaged. But if we can cut through here, you can see the enemy underneath follows us. We can grab the power up if we have full wolf, and now if we run, then the enemy will be slow to chase after us. We can dive down and hit it with our power up, and that should mean that we don't get damaged, because if that enemy is right on that corner, we will get damaged and won't be able to hit it. So it's those tricks that you only learn in this game to simplify it, which make this game a doddle. If the game is a doddle, then you can just run straight through it. But with this particular level, and no, I'm not riding on the back of this thing because that leads us yet to another power-up. Well, I might do actually, because that might come in handy. That's a boomerang, and the boomerang, just like a Zelda game, well, once we have that, we can fire it towards the enemies, and that helps and it returns to us. But unfortunately for me, that means that I lose the current power-up. And so let's see if this is any good. It's really not much more powerful than the others, because virtually all the power-ups in this game kill all of the enemies with either 1 or 2 shots. So inching forwards here, because if you don't, you'll get killed. This level in particular is all about inching forwards and not getting killed as much as possible. And there are easy ways and hard ways to kill these things, and these grasshoppers will only fire above, they won't duck and fire, as far as I know. But look at that, full health, and as long as I leave that full health around until I need it, it means I can now rush on to the left and ignore it completely and kill some more of these enemies, and then when I really do need it, I'll run back to the right and pick it up all over again. That's a checkpoint, and even the checkpoints are guarded in this game, and it's very annoying when those things kill us, because that means we don't have any energy left, and it can be highly annoying if we run straight to the health and all the way back again, because it can mean that we have things falling on our heads and we lose that energy straight away. But it's those things that you have to look out for. Look at that, respawn enemies. You have to watch out for those. You have to be brave and you have to know the tricks. That way the game is possible. And EXT, let's collect that and lose the health straight away, but that extends our health bar yet again. And that means that we can take another hit in Wolf before we return. And Shadow of the Beast, if we look at that snail, this reminds us of the Shadow of the Beast type game, where we can use the critters on the level. And look at that, if we jump on this thing, that gives us another full health, and that means if we're not full wolf by now, we can get it just by using that power up. So the hidden features of this game means that players can, if they want to explore, make the game a lot easier by exploring, and it's those exploring features which enhance this game from just a run-of-the-mill platformer. We have reached the Grasshopper. Congratulations, that is halfway through this level 3 and halfway through this review. So if you've reached the Grasshopper, thanks for staying with us, and you can see parallax scrolling backgrounds. But one of the quirks of this game is the character has inertia. No, it's not like Zool, and it's not like, well, Fire and Ice and other games that we've seen, that you really do need to run and jump if you want to make some of the gaps. And if we hit, that wasp will die because that thing will kill us, and so we don't really want to do that. But if you do take damage, guess what? There's not 1 but 3 health pickups to collect if we should have taken damage on that point. So that's great, it means we can stay topped up at all times and be brave and be full wolf in this game. But this game will get a bit harder later on, because now that we've passed the halfway point in this level, things really do move up an extra notch. And sometimes it can be best to explore it all, and that gives us an advantage over the rest of it. So I'm going back to try and pick up a power-up, and picking up a power-up penguin in this case should help us. If we can bash our way through, we can also jump on these bricks as well, and that should mean that we can find extra goodies. And jumping on bricks will come in handy a bit later. In the meantime, we've managed to find an arc weapon that looks a bit like a paper plane, Hadouken, and so we'll have to aim that directly at the enemies. Oh, look at that, it's also a heat seeker, so a heat seeking Hadouken. Well, you can't go far wrong with that, particularly with snails, which are harmless. Let's get back to where we were before, and those enemies can really take some firepower at this stage, because the enemies do get harder as the game goes on, it seems, but as long as we stay with that full wolf, we'll be alright. So you can see with the parallax scrolling backgrounds and the great music on these levels, there's also some hidden platforms, and if we don't hit those hidden platforms, we'll die, and one of these platforms will throw us into the spikes anyway. So it's playing this game over and over, figuring it out over and over is what you have to do, otherwise you're gonna get damaged, and if you get damaged too much, that writes the game off. So timing in this case is what I'm trying to do, even though this thing is going to kill us. If we jump just at the right spot, look at that, another extend. Let's jump down and get another extend. And I always love picking up those things because that saves us getting killed. We're almost at full health now. But this is the hardest part in, well, perhaps the entire game, because in this part we'll find blades just like Indiana Jones, and avoiding those means that we'll have to run. And running means inertia, and inertia means running and jumping in inertia in this game. So let's see how much damage I could take on this section, because guess what? It's not the easiest one, and I'm not the best at it. This game was designed by Simon Phipps, who went on to much bigger and better things, including Harry Potter series. And Simon Phipps, of course, famous for many games on the Amiga, including Bubba and Sticks, and perhaps most famously for the Rick Dangerous games. And certainly enjoyed the Rick Dangerous games, and certainly enjoyed the Switchblade games as well, and some of the characters from Switchblade are in this game, and I really love the Slug one. It reminds me of Switchblade 1, one of my favourite games on a Commodore 64. And so the design and the graphics with Simon Phipps. The actual coding was done by John Kirkland, who also coded Warzone before this. Yes, my favourite Warzone that we saw a few weeks ago. He coded that, and then moved on to this game, Wolfchild, in 1992, and then he moved on to Bubba and Sticks with Simon Phipps in 1994, and the pair went on to work on Shell Shock for the PS1 and the Saturn in 1996. And so Simon Phipps and John Kirkland make a tremendous team. No exception to that is the music by Martin Iveson, who also created music for Blob, Blastar, Bubba and Sticks, Chuck Rock 2, Universe, remember that we saw, and Banshee as well. Now we get into a more tricky part of the game, and now this time isn't a matter of mastering the level, learning the enemies. It now more or less relies on that timing, and you have to time these things, of course, otherwise you're not going to survive very long. But look at that, full wolf all the way back. And just when you thought it was safe to avoid bricks in the wall, then you can also jump on them, and we also reveal hidden items as well. And once again, it's always fun to do that. I think there is an extra hidden item there, I can't find it. Let's just move on towards the end of this level. Getting through quite a few in this series. This is the first one. This is the first one that I'm narrating, and there's some play guides that are narrated quite a few years ago. So we'll be running through them first of all, so that's why it won't sound exactly like me. And then we'll be getting towards the new ones a bit later on, and maybe some fan voted ones, I'm not quite sure as well. But what we'll be doing is moving through quite a few old footage before we get to the new stuff. So this is 2018 stuff that you're now watching in 2020, and I'm just about getting it out there. So hopefully this clears the decks for more play guides in the future. And you might notice that this second part of Series 5 is quite dark and dingy, and we'll be playing quite a few dark and dingy games like Powermonger and things like that. But I'm going to replace some of the games that I was going to show you with a little bit lighter and brighter games like Fire and Ice and Turrican and things like that. Those games weren't generally supposed to be played this series, but I thought I'd lighten it up anyway, because the dark and dingy games like Nemac 4 and all those really crazy first-person dark and dingy shooters that I was going to play are actually a bit too dark and dingy. We need things to be lightened up. So I will be changing one or two of the games, mostly because they weren't any good. So here we go, we're reaching the end of level. And just as we get towards the end of level, thank goodness, it gives us some power-ups, which is a homing Hadouken. But we can't afford to waste that, because if we do, that will be wasted. And so luckily jumping up on these things isn't a problem. It gives us a waypoint which we cannot avoid, unfortunately, because we could have saved the health otherwise. But now if we crouch down in this corner and utterly be not brave, we can take on those enemies one at a time, and if they hit us, that will move the screen 1 pixel across. That means they can't drop directly on our heads. and that's a bit of a cheat yet again, but this level and the end of level bosses, whatever they may be, are difficult, and if you don't stand in the right place they will drop on your heads and kill you because they take more than one shot. So I'm chickening out here just for the sake of enjoyment and pure fun in this game. You can see we have the bonus collected, we have the extra, we're up to 4 lives, we've got quite a lot of the health, and we've got 7 of those smart bombs remaining. So that should mean that we can get on to the next level, and I think there are maybe 6 or 8 levels in the game. We'll be getting to level 4 in this particular video. It might surprise you to learn that this was recorded the day after this appeared in the Lemon Amiga Games competition, and what better to master this game than 3 weeks dedicated play versus maybe 10-20 other players. And so at the end of all that I came maybe 7th in all these, but I didn't get off level 4. And again, this was recorded the day after the competition closed, so this isn't an official competition score, and it might seem a complete waste of time to play this the day after the competition closes, but I was on top form and I wanted to record this for Playguide. I didn't get time to play it during the competition as much as I wanted to, so guess what, this was my redeeming feature. I tried to play it again the day after and I tried to get further. So this is as far as I've ever got with this game. There are some falling spikes here and some guys, and this is as far as I've ever got, because the guys that fall from the top hit us and kill us, and unless you survive so long before you get to the top of this thing, you will die. And this thing is timed, so if you leave one guy hanging around for 5 minutes, you'll eventually get to the top of the level, but you can't do that because guys are dropping from the top. So what you have to do is to try to survive, and this is me trying to survive with Full Wolf, and that is about to run out, and I'm trying to stay alive because I know at the top of this, according to the other players in the competition, there is full health. So if we can survive this and hopefully not get my ass kicked too much, I can survive and get that full health. We're down to punch power, and let's punch those guys, and unfortunately not. That teleports us miraculously all the way down to the start of the level again. And I've noticed that the spikes won't land on our heads if we stand in this corner, so let's do that. We're down to 3 lives, and we haven't got any bonus letters or extra letters or lives to pick up. On these levels, this is it. And what I'm going to have to do is figure out how to play this game. We are surviving, but on punch power I'm choosing to waste all of the smart bombs in a futile attempt to get to the top of this level, and that isn't going to work. And if you duck, they'll shoot, and if you stand up, they'll shoot, and so if you're standing or ducked anywhere on this platform, you'll get killed. And you might notice terribly when we restart the level, guess what, we don't get full health back. We get full health as it was on level 1. So we don't get any of that power-up power until we get the power-up, which is a bad feature, and I wish they hadn't put that in the game, because now we're getting beaten, we don't have the health to survive this level. We have 1 smart bomb left and 2 lives, and I'm thinking at this point that surely it must be at least possible to get through this, because what happens if you lose Full Wolf and you can't get to the top because I don't have any wolf power? Surely it must be possible by the average human being. What am I missing? What is the trick that I'm missing? It's not the smart bombs. What is it? And I'm jumping up and down there thinking, maybe if I jump over those guys, maybe I can jump over as I get killed again. Maybe I can jump over some of that firepower and maybe punch them on the other side. So that's what I'm going to try to do. Let's try that out. Let's see how far we get. I'm still getting killed, but it seems to be working a bit better than my previous method. and I've noticed that when we are in the air they can't fire in the air, so in theory we are safe as long as we keep leaping around like a madman all over this platform. It should mean that we are safe. Don't forget, if we get knocked back, that won't knock back any energy, that will only damage us if we get hit by a projectile. So we are managing to do this time. We have figured it out, and we're getting towards the top of that level. Unfortunately, we're not going to make it on this particular try, but that's how we get through this level. And once you get to the top, we'll get an elevator. Unfortunately, there's a big bad guy at the top who shoots us with a laser, and you have to be ready for him, otherwise you'll have to do it again. So whilst you see me leaping around on this elevator, getting to the top of it, I'll move through those scores. Amiga Power gave this 58%. Stuart Campbell gave this the lowest score, complaining that the levels were too large and boring, power-ups weren't frequent, you lose your long-distance weapon, etc, etc. And Amiga Format awarded this 76%, so a bit of a difference between 58 and 76. The current Lemon Amiga score is 74%. Dator or Dator magazine awarded this 80%. Amiga Joker gave this 81%. The One gave this 84%. Amiga Computing awarded Wolfchild 86%. Generation 4 awarded it 90% and an award. And Zero gave it 90% an award, and Ace gave this 90% and an award. Lastly, Amiga Action gave this 91%, which means the average score is 8 out of 10. So let's kill that guy and get the energy back and explore this level a little bit more. Wolfchild was released on the Sega Master System, the Sega Game Gear, the Atari ST, and you can see of all those, the Amiga definitely comes out the better. I think it was designed and created originally on the Atari ST, but the Amiga has the music. And the Amiga is definitely the best version in the world, as long as you ignore the Sega Mega Drive version, the Super Nintendo version, and the Sega CD version. Turning back to the Amiga, I'm running around blind at the moment, not having a clue about this map, not having a clue where to go, and just having reached a checkpoint with almost full wolf. So it is possible to get further in this game, and when we played it in the competition, I assigned checkpoints to the levels, and then if players got to those checkpoints, they could simply save a screenshot there, and they could get to those checkpoints, and that means that you got rewarded. And I'm not quite sure, but I didn't realise that the score was actually on the options screen of the game, and the last score is there, so we didn't have to save those checkpoints. After all, when you die, you do die quickly, but if you press the fire button on the high score table, you can see the high score. So this is virtually the end of the review. We're getting as far as I ever got with this game, and this is definitely as far as I ever got in my entire life with it. That's another smart bomb, and yes, it can be helpful to blow up enemies that are on a different level to us, like that, and that saves us getting killed. So let's just do that and try again with the inertia. My favourite thing, jumping with inertia. And I can't tell you how many times I've ripped my hair out due to that game mechanic. So let's carry on, and we're almost at the checkpoint now, which marks the midpoint of the level. I'm not quite sure, but I don't think I'll get there on this particular run, and at least we don't have to go through Indiana Jones type traps on this level. This gives the player a break. Unfortunately, with the CGA type colour palette that I'm looking at the moment, and you're looking at pink and cyan, that isn't the best colour combination outside of a VIC-20, so pink and cyan unfortunately doesn't switch my button on, and so I really have to downgrade the graphics on some of these levels, even though they have parallax scrolling. And so the graphics are fine for what they are, but sometimes this very deep and atmospheric game can actually get complicated with graphics and pipes all over the place, and until you start moving you're not quite sure what you can jump on and what you can't. But you can definitely be sure what the enemies can hit and what they can't. They can't hit anything except for us, and when we get hit we'll get killed. So you'll have to observe all of the tricks in the game, find all of the hidden features and all the hidden bonuses, which I'm probably running straight past at the moment, in my futile attempt to cling on to that extra life. We've got 0 lives at the moment, and so we won't go down, let's just go up, and let's continue past lethal pipes of smoke and lethal alien octopuses, which leap out of alien tanks and occupy their way through our skull and defeat us. So that's the end, particularly, of my game. Thank you very much for checking out Wolfchild. I'd probably give this a 7 out of 10. It's annoying to lose wolf power every 5 seconds in all those health power-ups when you have full health. It's also annoying, but apart from that, it's got a lot of good things going for it. So I'd probably give this a higher rating than most, given the amount of time that's passed between its launch and right now. So thank you very much.